The Colorado Buffaloes just whiffed on their top recruiting target, but is it actually over? I don't think so. Let's talk about it on today's episode of Locked on Buffs.
You are Locked on Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked on Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Bourbe. Today's episode is brought to you by our sponsors over at Monarch Money. The episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So do me a favor, make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so I can keep my job, we keep having fun, and you can stay up to date on all things Colorado Buffaloes. Let's talk about Cederian Morgan. It didn't go as Colorado fans were hoping. I kind of had my suspicions that he was very heavily leaning towards Alabama because everybody in the book was like, hey, he's going to Bama. He's a Bama kid. In-state, Alabama's pushing really hard right now. Paul Feinbaum the other day said that Bama is recruiting like they were with Nick Saban. So, I mean, that's pretty intense. That's pretty hard to beat. And I've always said that Deion Sanders, his only downside or only flaw, his fatal flaw in recruiting is if someone wants to go to an SEC school, that's something that he can't control if he's at Colorado. So the Buffs miss on Cederian Morgan. But I'm here to tell you that I don't think you should lose hope because at the end of the day, pen has not been put to paper. Now, let me explain. Signing day is a ways away. It's in, I guess, 4 or 5. Wait, how many months is away? I don't even know what month we're in. It's in about 4 to 5 months, right? So there's a long time until signing day, which means Colorado has 4 to 5 months to figure things out. Colorado also has 4 to 5 months to figure out how to sweeten their deal. And I know a lot of people are going to listen to this or see this title and be like, oh my gosh, this guy just can't let it go. Like they're not going to get him. Well, let's take a trip down memory lane. Let's just go back to Julian Lewis last year, right? 5-star quarterback committed to USC in, let's see, let me pull up the calendar over here because this is important. Commits to USC August 22nd of 2023. Backs off his commitment November of 2024, commits to Colorado 4 days later, right? So there's that. That was pretty close to early signing day, which was December 4th. Year before that, Jordan Seaton, right? He wasn't committed anywhere, but Ohio State was making pushes. Maryland was making a push. And lo and behold, who ended up winning when things were all said and done? Good old Colorado. So there's that. Year before, let's keep going, right? This game is fun, right? Cormani McClain, 5-star, was expected to go to Florida, expected to go to Miami, was supposed to sign with Miami, mind you. And all of a sudden, he's going to Boulder, right? Let's go back the year before that. Deion Sanders is in his, I guess it was his second or third season. I think it was his third season at Jackson State or fourth season. Either way, we all know who I'm talking about. Deion Sanders, Travis Hunter, number 1 overall recruit in the country, supposed to sign with Florida State, was going to be the guy that, because Florida State at the time, which Florida State's gone on this weird little trajectory of like, hey, we're back. Now we're not. Now they're not back again. But Travis Hunter was going to be a huge recruiting win for Mike Norvell. He was going to be one of the first massive wins for the Seminoles. And he's supposed to sign with Florida State. And all of a sudden, he's tossing the hat, put on Jackson State hat, right? And obviously that's not Colorado. But the same theory, the same vibes apply, right? Deion Sanders, all he needs is for pen to not be put on paper, and there's a fighting chance, right? I have this friend who, it's been a while since I've talked to him, and I think maybe this anecdote will probably express or share why I don't talk to him as much, but I think it applies here. And I never thought he was right, but maybe in recruiting we'll count it. So my friend always had this affinity for girls who were in relationships, right? He was a bit of a homewrecker. And his question, whenever he'd tell me like, hey, I'm interested in this girl, I'd be like, just got a girlfriend, dude, like that, or a boyfriend, dude. That's kind of weird. He's like, but are they married? Right. And while I don't love that sentiment, in the real world of relationships and life, I do think it applies here in recruiting, right? Is Cederian Morgan committed to Alabama? Yes. But has he signed with Alabama? No. So in that case, there is a prime, no pun intended, opportunity for Colorado to get back in the mix, right? The biggest thing that he said that led him to committing to Alabama was his relationship with wide receivers coach Jamarcus Shepard. So what does that tell you? That means whoever was recruiting him as his primary, which I'm sure it's the wide receivers coach, obviously needs to do a little bit better job of getting to that level. It's maybe they did a great job already, but it's one of those things. Jason Phillips, that is, maybe he does a great job already, but maybe he also can put in some more work somehow. And I'm not saying he doesn't work hard or whatever, but obviously if he's saying that that was the difference, you got to figure out a way to get in there. Second, and I think this is where Deion Sanders calls into favor, right? You call in the reliever, the lefty. So Cederian Morgan goes to school in Alabama. He goes to Benjamin Russell. At his commitment today, there was a guy, famous alum by the name of Terrell Owens, very close friend of Coach Prime, always making stops in Boulder, always stopping by, and maybe he puts in a word, right? Obviously, Terrell was supporting him regardless, but I think you have to if you're Colorado, you don't give up because you've never given up on a recruit of this caliber before. Deion Sanders has shown that he could flip recruits from programs such as USC, Notre Dame, Florida State, you name it, right? He has flipped guys constantly. Oklahoma State, whatever the program is, he has flipped from there, right? So I don't think this is any different, right? I think there's a pretty tough pitch to make because obviously he's a homegrown kid staying in Alabama. But if you're Colorado, this is far from over. You don't let this be over. If you let it be over and you want to move on, that's fine. But if you really want a 5-star receiver catching passes, mind you, he's 6'4", an all-conference basketball player, and also runs track at a high level. You want someone like that, you do whatever it takes to go get someone like that. So, yes, they missed on him. Do I think it's over? We'll see. When we come back, the good old people over here at Locked On, the Locked On Podcast Network, we put together our power rankings for the Big 12. And I'm going to be honest, I vehemently disagree where Colorado ended up. But we'll get there. We'll talk about it. But first, we got to take a quick break. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch Money puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building that wealth up. So take control of your finances, with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So do me a favor and make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. And give me 5 stars wherever you get your podcast. Let me keep my job. Let's have some fun because we're going to have some cool guests coming up, some former Colorado players. And we're about to dive into the fun part of the offseason where it's like we're doing preseason rankings, preseason chatter, and we're doing all that. So let's just discuss these Big 12 power rankings. Let me warn you, they were voted on by the group here, right? So you guys know the group. There's a handful of us. We do the Locked On Big 12 squad, the Dose Grande, every week, and we voted. We all ranked each team, and this is what we came up with. Obviously, I don't agree with all of this. I did my rankings the other day because I disagreed. So if you can't see it, it's Arizona State 1, Kansas State 2, Texas Tech 3, Baylor 4, Iowa State 5, BYU 6, which I think changes now that Jake Rutzloff is no longer there, but we obviously did this before we knew that. TCU, Locked On Utes, Utah, Kansas, Colorado at number 10, Houston at 11, Oklahoma State 12, West Virginia 13, locked on Cincinnati, Cincinnati at 14, UCF, and then bringing out the rear, the Arizona Wildcats. So let's talk about this because I do think it's worth discussing. I feel like we are in a spot where it's, I don't know. I disagree with it. The way I had it, I had Texas Tech 1, ASU 2nd, Kansas State 3rd, TCU 4, Baylor 5th, Iowa State 6th, Utah 7th, Colorado 8th. So I have Colorado 2 spots higher. Houston, Kansas, UCF, Cincinnati 12, Arizona 13, BYU 14, Oklahoma State 15, and West Virginia 16. Now, why are so many people this low on Colorado, right? 10 is, I have them in the middle of the pack, right? 8th place last year in the Big 12. I mean, I think that was mathematically, I think you were still in the mix for a Big 12 title, right? If we're looking at the Big 12 standings of last year, because they had it was like 7 to 8 teams in the last couple of weeks that mathematically had a chance, right? I think with BYU's quarterback situation doubtful, I think Colorado has a chance to be 9-3 on the year. I had them going 7-5, 8-4, but I think that sort of changes things. And you look at their schedule, right? They go Georgia Tech, Delaware, Houston, Wyoming, BYU. I think in a slate that I thought they'd probably go 3-2, 4-1, I now think they're going to start 5-0. So there's that. I think they go 5-0 to open the year, and I think that sort of gives them the confidence the rest of the way. And you win a shootout here or there. Next thing you know, you're at 8 or 9 wins, contending for a Big 12 title. So let's just, I'm going to bring it back up. Let's just go over what I disagree with the most. I think we're way too high on Iowa State. Well, I guess I had them at 5. We're pretty high on Kansas. I don't think they're that good. I think Jalen Daniels has shown us time and time again that, like, hey, unless he's healthy, he can't be the guy. And even when they changed their offensive coordinator, he was not the guy anymore. TCU, I personally had a little higher. I think 11 through 16 is a crapshoot. I think you could tell me, like, Houston finished second to last, or West Virginia finished last, or Cincinnati finished second to last, and I wouldn't be shocked, right? Of all these teams that I think outside of Colorado who could be the biggest surprise next year, I'd probably go Utah. They have a really dynamic quarterback. They have a better offensive coordinator. So I do think that Utah is a team to look out for. I also feel like Baylor is a team ready to explode. Now, granted, we had them 4th. I had them 5th. I think Baylor's a team that makes the jump. And yeah, I feel like, and here's what it'll take for people to gain confidence in Colorado. They need to see the defense do what they did last year, right? Be effective in getting to the quarterback. They need to be better at slowing down the run. They need to be good in coverage without Travis Hunter. So there's that. Offensively, the offensive line needs to be good, right? The offensive line for the past 2 years has been abysmal. It's been terrible. It's been awful. It's been dog water, if you will. That being said, Shedeur Sanders was able to make plays nonstop. He was able to escape pressure. He was able to do this, do that, and always seemed to save the offensive line, even though he's sacked 90-something times in 2 years. Caden Salter is more mobile, but is Caden Salter ready to run for his life every single play? I don't know, right? So the offensive line needs to be better. The run game needs to be better, and Pat Shurmur's play calling needs to be more diverse and he needs to take a risk, right? You can't run the same offense that you ran for the past 2 years, or I guess the past year and 4 games if you're Pat Shurmur, because you don't have those pieces anymore, right? This should be a brand new playbook. You could still run similar plays, but you should not, and I repeat, you should not be running back that same offense where it's just like, we're going to do this the same every time and hope for the best because you have a different squad. And I don't think Colorado wants to get caught up in like, hey, this worked last year. What's happening? Well, you have different personnel. So figure out a way to run the ball, figure out a way to get Caden Salter to use his legs, the play action game, let him push the ball down the field. I think he probably has a better arm than Shedeur. So there's that. But I think that's what Colorado could do to move up these rankings. Not bad though. 9th place, I think 10th. It's 2 spots lower than I had. I do think they should be 8th. That being said, Colorado has an opportunity to prove everybody wrong, and they've had that opportunity each of the past couple of years, and they've done it at times. So let's see if they could do it again. When we come back, I'm going to be talking about Colorado's latest commit and why I think Colorado fans need to chill out. This episode of Locked On Buffs, it is brought to you by our sponsors over at the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Let's get to 8,000. Hit that like button. Let's just run it up and give me 5 stars so we can continue to have some fun. The Colorado Buffaloes the other day landed a commitment from 3-star linebacker Colby Johnson from Samish, I believe it's Samish, Washington. 1,508th player in the country, was at one point committed. He had a bunch of G5 offers, right? Right. He had Montana after him, San Diego State, Fresno State, Washington State. So he's not the most highly touted recruit, right? I'm not going to deny that. But does that mean he can't be a good player? Absolutely not. He has 12 offers from some of the best Group of 5 programs in the country. Colorado, as according to 24/7 Sports, Colorado and Arizona were his only 2 P4 offers. Now, what does that mean? That just means he's a hidden gem, right? I think people need to stop always basing things off the rankings, right? Colorado needs depth at linebacker. They need someone who's willing to grind. They need someone who's not afraid of a challenge. If he's a 3-star recruit who's a 1,500th ranked player in the country, clearly he's not afraid to grind. Also, I see so many people hating on the fact that he's a 3-star. Let's take a trip down memory lane, shall we? Right? Let's go to some of the big recruits that Colorado has benefited off of, right? Shedeur Sanders, for one. 24/7 Sports had him ranked as a 3-star. Their composite rankings is a 4-star, but Shedeur Sanders was ranked as the 37th quarterback, 75th player in the state of Texas. Jimmy Horn Jr., who all of you love and all of you really liked watching play at Colorado. 152nd receiver, 105th player in the state of Florida. Okay? Let's think of a guy who I think a lot of Colorado fans are high on this year, Taufik Bayard, right? Taufik Bayard, he under-recruited over there, right? Starts his career at USF, 102nd safety, 17th best player in Maryland, right? So we can't just base recruiting rankings, recruiting rankings are a nice crutch, but they can't be the gospel. You know what I mean? We can't just be like, okay, this player is not good because he wasn't ranked highly, right? Ashton Genty, who was a finalist for the Heisman, 3-star recruit. Cam Ward, who won, or excuse me, he didn't win the Heisman. Heisman finalist, number 1 overall pick, 0-star recruit. So I know there's a lot of frustrations with Colorado's, we'll call it struggles at the linebacker position on the recruiting trail. I don't think we should tear down a commit. I'm not in the business of shooting down a young kid for chasing a dream. I will say I would like to see more out of Colorado's recruiting when it comes to linebackers. But Colby Johnson is a guy who, I mean, give him a chance, right? He's a guy who maybe he works his way into the rotation year 1 or year 2. He's got a lot of growing to do. He's currently listed at 6'2", 195, but he's athletic, right? He's a 2-way player, plays 2 sports, really pretty fast, sub 1,100 meter dash. He does a little bit of everything, right? He's a good tackler, can play offense, can play defense. He's going to play linebacker for the Buffs, but that doesn't mean he's not versatile, right? They get a versatile athlete who's fast, has a lot of growing to do with his frame, and has a lot to prove. So why wouldn't you want that? Why wouldn't you want to take a chance on someone with a lot to prove, right? Deion Sanders had a lot to prove at one point as a head coach. People didn't believe in him. Even people who have something to prove or who are underrated or overlooked, that's not the business I want to be in. I want to be in the business of like understanding like, hey, just because he's not the number 1 player in the country doesn't mean he can't be a good player. Now, again, like I said earlier, would I like to see Colorado recruit the linebacker position better? Yes. But obviously it makes things difficult to sort of, or not difficult, but it doesn't make it right to just go after a recruit because he's not a 3-star or because he's not a 5-star, right? Give him a chance. Let's see what he does, right? Maybe he's going to be a passionate recruiter for the program. Maybe he's going to help bring in some other talents, and maybe he's going to end up being a Colorado legend. We never know. So give the guy a chance. I don't want to see any more people shooting down a recruit because of his ranking. Is it great to land 4 and 5 stars? Yes. But you have to take talented recruits when you get them. And if they see something in him, they see something in him. So that means there's possibly a chance that he could be a really good player for the Buffs. That's what I have to say on the matter. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and I will see you guys tomorrow.